We are answering question 1 today. When will these things happen? And that means, when will the temple be destroyed? Okay. When will the temple be destroyed? So Jesus, remember, they asked the question and Jesus starts answering it right away. So now what we're looking for, if partial preterism, the timeline is correct, and the tribulation has already happened. If that's correct, then all the things that Jesus says when he's answering number 1 question, they will be things that already happened in the past. So as we are looking at these scriptures, we are looking to see if these indeed are things that happened in the past, okay? Partial or premillennialist, futurist say that all the things that Jesus says in response to this question, that those things have not happened yet. Okay, so this is how we're comparing and contrasting to see, what does the Bible say and how do we interpret it? Are these talking about things that have already happened or things that still are yet to happen? Then the next thing Jesus says, the great tribulation, for then there will be a great tribulation. So after the Romans come in and start destroying the city, such has not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor will ever occur again. And if those days had not been cut short, no life would have been saved. But for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. Okay, so you hear about the futurists saying, this is talking about the tribulation and all these terrible things that are going to happen in the future. So, and how could Jesus say this? Because we know, like the Holocaust that happened during World War II in the 20th century, there were 6 million Jews who were tortured and killed. Horrific, horrific things. So how could Jesus say that this is the worst thing that could ever happen when 1 million Jews were killed? And I think that it's a very subjective thing to say something like that. And I think that the more you read about the things, the atrocities that happened, and I'm not going to go through all of just terrible, terrible things. And also the fact that 1 million Jews were killed at that time, it was a much higher percentage of the population of the Jewish people. And all of those deaths, the murders and the tortures, all of that took place within a 4-month time period. So it was just the horror of it was just so much more intense, I believe, even though no one would ever say that what happened to the Jewish people during the Holocaust in the 20th century was not horrific, because it absolutely was. So, but that took place, and all those murders took place over between 6 and 12 years. So it was spread out a little bit more. It doesn't, make it any less horrible. But so then Jesus talks about false Christ again. He says, then if anyone says to you, behold, here is the Christ, or he is over here, do not believe him. For false Christ and false prophets will arise and will provide great signs and wonders, so as to mislead, if possible, even the elect. Behold, I have told you in advance. So if they say to you, behold, he is in the wilderness, do not go out. Or behold, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe them. For just as the lightning comes from the east and flashes as far as the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. So he's telling them that, when I really do come back, you're going to know. It's not going to be all these people rising up. And so did this happen? And so we hear again, Josephus telling us that that all of these people, false prophets and leaders, arose during this time when the Israelites were under siege, claiming to be the Christ. And so the problem was that a lot of people followed them. They were desperate. And so they started trying to have rebellions. And so it actually made things a lot worse, because the response from the Romans was just so fierce and so brutal. And so they would have actually been better off if they had not followed these false Christs, So anyway, that's what Jesus was warning them about. Okay, so we got one more thing. And then we're going to end with this. Okay, so this is the very last verse of Jesus' answer to this first question. Okay, and it's kind of confusing. It's kind of weird. He says, wherever the corpse is, there the vultures will gather. So what does he mean? What is he talking about? There the vultures. Well, so first of all, we know all these bodies were lying in the streets, and there were all these dead bodies everywhere. So of course the vultures are going to gather. So it probably meant that, but it meant something else. And so I want to show you. So when the Roman soldiers were standing around the tops of the mountains around Jerusalem, so one thing that the Roman soldiers would do, they had these banners that they would hold up. They were called standards. And so it was an intimidation tactic. Okay. So they would stand before they attacked, and they would hold up these banners. And what do you think those banners, the picture that was on those banners? Let me show you. Can you see that? Two-headed black vultures. Yeah. This is just crazy. So when the Roman soldiers appeared at the tops of the mountains, The people in the city of Jerusalem looked up and they see all these soldiers. They're surrounded and they're holding up these banners that have this picture of two-headed black vultures. And Jesus had talked about vultures. So I'm telling you what, I've got more to go next week. But by this time, when I was in this book, I had already been convinced. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's exactly what Jesus was talking about. He's not talking about 2,000 years from now. It's so obvious to me. So what do you think? What do you think? Has any of this changed your mind? Has your opinion about the end times shifted a little bit through the stuff I've already said?